Right, let's begin with the front page of The Observer, Steve. What are they going with?
A couple of depressing stories, if that's what you're into.
Let's do it. Let's start the show, as we mean to go on.
Ministers accused of spoiling for a fight with nurses, which never go for a fight with a nurse, because they know too much about the anatomy. They'd take you down in seconds. I once dated someone who was, an undergraduate medical student. Same thing. They know too much. But this is more about pay. This is Health Secretary Steve Barclay, who said he will not negotiate. So bearing in mind that any one of us could be impacted by the strike, because you never know. You know, you might fall over at the wrong time and need a nurse when they're on strike. And even if you think the amount of pay rise they're asking for is too much, because they're trying to factor in the pay losses that they've had over the last 10 years, if you're not willing to negotiate, you are part of guaranteeing that the strike will happen, which might be the reason why our relative doesn't make it through a trip to A&E. So I don't have a lot of time for Steve Barclay's attitude of I will not negotiate. Go and negotiate your side. You're not going to win the argument if you don't take part.
Do you agree, Sajida?
Yes, please negotiate, because I shall be relying on those nurses this Monday when I have my surgery. Minor surgery, I'm OK. But, you know, the nurses do an amazing job. Just negotiate. And it's really easy to blame the people who are striking, like, oh, they're holding the country to ransom. No, that's the last resort. So, you know, can you please, like, do something so that they don't have to do that?
Well, the argument goes that, of course, what they're actually asking for in terms of wanting pay at the rate of inflation now is that inflation is going to go down, but also the idea that by giving everybody who wants pay at inflation, that's going to make inflation worse and it's going to create this spiral. So there is a need for balance here, surely. We can't just go, here's everything you want.
But even if you think that, then you should go to the meeting and negotiate that point. The refusal to even turn up to a room and say it is going to guarantee that the strike takes place.
And
I agree.
I mean, how do you think that, like, Scotland has come to an agreement and they are talking now with it, and it seems like Scottish nurses are going to be earning on average over £800 more at the moment. Do you think that puts a lot of problem for the government over in?
I don't know why we're using nurses, you know, the ones that actually deserve it, as some kind of benchmark. As to, oh, well, if they go and ask for what they deserve, that somehow they're responsible for the economy going down or any other reason. I don't think that's a logical argument, because that's basically blaming them for something that they deserve. You know, it's like they didn't screw up the economy. The government did. So let's put the blame where the blame is meant to be.
But anybody who works for public institutions can then go, well, look, nurses they've got their 11% that they wanted. We also want 11%, and that's the idea.
Well, I'm in hospital on Monday. I want the nurses to have everything they want. You be comfortable, ladies and gentlemen. And,
I see. If it was on Tuesday, you'd be coming here with, like, a different picture. You'd be like, don't give those nurses anything.
That's a very good point, because I've got me minor surgery for the lump at some stage.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm also not going to be upsetting nurses.
No.
Good point.
We love you,
Fine.
NHS. I genuinely do.
Now, let's talk about this other story that's on the front page. And this one makes me quite upset.
And as it should, because the story is Afghans face torture after UK breaks its pledge to help. People who were translators or in some way helping, and there was a promise made by the UK when the pullout happened, and obviously parts of it were botched, if not all of it were botched, the speed at which it happened, the lack of planning or whatever. But a promise was made that if you were working with the West, effectively, UK or America, that you clearly face some reprisals if we just head away from there and see what happens. So we promised to give safety to these people. So far, let's just run through the stats. I'll give you the figures. Not one person has been accepted and evacuated from Afghanistan under the Home Office's scheme. That's 0 people. So, I mean, what message does this send? So even the next time we're somewhere where we say, oh, we need locals to try and help, why would they? Look at how we failed on our promise. Why would they believe us next time?
I mean, what do you think?
I'm livid. I'm absolutely livid, because I still remember, it's ingrained, those images of, you know, when the forces pulled out and people are hanging on the planes, they're desperate, and it's like, oh, no, we're going to sort this. And I knew it's never going to get sorted. You know, it's like to go back. It's so un-British to not honour your commitment to what you were going to do.
Well, they say there's 5 or 6 people possibly working in this department to sort this out. I mean, this is crazy. And then the terrible thing is, even further, when you actually start reading the examples of some of these people who worked as translators or worked for security, for the British Council, and you're just like, someone's daughter died because this person was in hiding and his wife couldn't take the daughter to the hospital. There was other people whose brothers been attacked and taken to and tortured in prison. I mean, it's unbelievable that the government and look, how bad are we getting migration at the moment?
We're getting it so bad. I tell you, we just have we're not good at this. This is something that we're not being very good at, and I don't think history is going to be very kind on looking back on this. And one of the sentences here in this article says there is absolutely no sense that Afghanistan is any kind of priority at all. That's so evident. How I feel ashamed right now. I feel ashamed.
I mean, people would argue that when it came to Ukrainian refugees, that Britain really stepped up.
Yeah, we put out the red carpet. And what happens is, I do believe that the tone of the country comes from the top, and because government was saying, look, we've got to welcome Ukrainians, they're in this town, which they were, this horrible war-torn thing, and everybody followed suit. People opened up their homes. If we'd done the same with Afghans, if we'd done the same with refugees that really genuinely need help, we wouldn't have this horrific rhetoric that we have against outsiders, people from other countries who are actually in situations that they're in because of policies that we made in the past.
But the strange thing about this story is even the people who ordinarily would not be that welcoming were saying at the time, oh, yeah, of course we should help. This is a group of people where even those who don't like refugees like the idea of offering the help that we promised. So it's a double failing. Even the people who don't like these kind of schemes would have expected it to be followed through on. So it's an embarrassment.
Britain, we're about fairness, and this has just not been fair.
Yeah.